Picture this. You finally did it. You saved up $40,000. You watched the videos, you ran the calculators, you told your friends, "I'm done renting. I'm buying." You find a place for $400,000. You put 5% down, that's $20,000, and you feel like a genius. Like, I cracked the code. Then your lender emails you. "Congrats! Final cash to close is $33,800. And you're like, what? Because in your brain, you already paid the down payment. So where is the extra $13,800 coming from? And worse, after you close within 30 days, your new homeowner life hits you with moving costs, new locks, basic repairs, surprise escrow, HOA setup, appliances, and some random required thing the inspector missed. And suddenly you're sitting there like, I just bought a house and I'm broke. That is what this video is about. Because the number one reason first-time buyers regret buying isn't the house. It's the fact that nobody warned them about the invisible costs that show up after they think they made it. So I'm going to give you a simple rule that saves people from financial panic. The $25,000 invisible costs rule. If you don't have this buffer, you don't own a house yet. The house owns you. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about the hidden cash flow math of homeownership. Closing costs, first-year expenses, and why people underestimate them. If you're someone who is saving for a down payment, but you're secretly worried you'll buy a property and then immediately feel broke, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, most people believe the hard part is the down payment. And yes, saving a down payment is hard. But here's the thing, down payment thinking is a trap. It's the most common way smart people accidentally become house poor. Because your down payment is just the admission ticket. The real game starts when the invisible costs show up. And you're emotionally committed, you're exhausted, you're already picturing furniture in the living room. And then you start swiping the card like it's not real money. This is where it gets really interesting. Your brain treats the down payment like the finish line. So you stop budgeting like a grown adult. That's not a character flaw. That's psychology. It's called goal gradient behavior. Once you hit the goal, you relax, even though the expensive part is still ahead. Here's the rule. Before you buy your first property, you need $25,000 set aside after your down payment and emergency fund. Not invested. Not I can borrow from my cousin. Not I'll put it on a credit card. Cash. A buffer. A moat. And I know what you're thinking. Nick, 25 grand is insane. I'm already fighting for the down payment. I get it. But the reason this rule exists is because the average person's invisible costs aren't $2,000. They're more like $10,000 to $30,000 in the first year, depending on price, location, and property type. And the most dangerous part? They show up in small chunks, so they feel harmless until you add them up. Let's start with the obvious one people still ignore, closing costs. This is the "where did my money go?" moment, because buyers do the math like this. Okay, 5% down is 20 grand. I have 20 grand. I'm ready. No, closing costs are separate. So let's do real math. Example, a $400,000 home. Closing costs are commonly about 2 to 5% of the purchase price. 2% of $400,000 is $8,000. 5% is $20,000. That's a $12,000 swing. And that swing depends on your loan, your state, escrow prepaids, and what's negotiable. Here's what most people don't realize. Closing costs aren't one thing. They're like a junk drawer. Lender fees, appraisal, title fees, escrow fees, recording fees, transfer taxes, prepaid interest, insurance preload, property tax escrow preload. So when someone says closing costs are 3%, that number hides like 20 line items. And psychologically, the reason people miss it is simple. Anchoring. You anchor to the list price and the monthly payment. Everything else feels like extra. Your brain goes, house, $400K. Monthly, $2,900. Closing, $14,000. Wait, why is that separate? That feels unfair. Yes, it is unfair, but it's real. Invisible cost number 2, escrow prepaids. This one is the silent killer because it feels like you're being double charged. Your lender might require you to pre-fund escrow. meaning you put extra money into an account at closing to cover a few months of property taxes and a few months of homeowners insurance. So you pay up front, and then you also pay monthly. And buyers freak out because they think, why am I paying insurance twice? You're not paying twice. You're prepaying to create a cushion so the lender knows taxes and insurance get paid even if you mess up. But it hits your bank account all at once. So if your down payment was the big punch, escrow prepaids are the punch you didn't see coming. Invisible cost number 3, moving. Everyone underestimates moving because they imagine truck plus pizza. But the moment you're not 22 years old with a couch you found on the street, moving becomes real money. Even if you keep it cheap, you still get hit with packing supplies, time off work, storage overlap, cleaning fees, and utility setup deposits. And if you hire movers, that's usually a 4-figure bill. So moving isn't a cute little cost. It's a real line item. Invisible cost number 4, the first year of repairs. Now you might be thinking, I'll just buy something move-in ready. Cool. But move-in ready doesn't mean life ready. Because the first year is when everything that was fine becomes not fine the moment you actually live there. Also, inspectors don't predict the future. They take a snapshot. A simple rule of thumb is to budget 1 to 4% of the home value per year for maintenance, repairs, and replacements. On a $400,000 home, 1% is $4,000 a year. 4% is $16,000 a year. That's not optional. That's reality over time. And here's the psychology behind why people ignore it. Optimism bias. You think, the roof looks fine. The water heater seems okay. The HVAC is old, but it works. Yeah, until it doesn't. And when it doesn't politely wait for you to recover financially. Invisible cost number 5, insurance increases. This one is newer, and it's nasty. Homeowners insurance has been rising in a lot of areas. And I'm not saying your premium will rise by an exact number. It varies by state, risk, and insurer. But the point is simple. Insurance is not stable anymore. So if your escrow adjusts after a year, your monthly payment can jump. And new buyers are shocked because they thought the payment was fixed. Here's what most people don't realize. Your mortgage principal and interest might be fixed, but taxes and insurance are not. Now let's build a realistic first-year invisible costs stack. Same example, a $400,000 home. I'm going to be conservative. Closing costs, say 3.5%. That's $14,000. Movers, call it $1,700. Immediate must-do stuff, locks, basic tools, minor fixes. Let's call it $1,500. Escrow preload surprises. Let's use $3,500 as a placeholder. First-year maintenance reserve, minimum. Even using 1%, that's $4,000. Now add it up. $14,000, $1,700, $1,500, $3,500, $4,000. Total, $24,700. That is why the thumbnail says $25K gone? Because it's not a scare tactic. It's literally what happens when normal life meets home ownership. This isn't just math. It's behavior. First, monthly payment blindness. People shop based on the monthly payment because it feels manageable. Upfront costs don't fit the monthly payment story, so they get ignored. Second, I deserve this spending. Once you buy, your brain goes, we worked so hard, let's make it nice. So you buy furniture, decor, small upgrades, and make 1,000 little trips to Home Depot. And none of it feels dangerous because it's only $80. Until you check your statement and you spent $2,300 on only $80. Third, sunk cost fallacy. You already paid for inspection and appraisal. So when closing costs come in higher, you don't walk away. You swallow it. That's why sellers and lenders have leverage late in the game. Because emotionally, you're trapped. Now you might be thinking, Nick, can't I just roll these costs into the loan? Sometimes, not always. And even when you can, you pay for it. Rolling costs into the loan usually means higher principal, higher interest paid over time, and sometimes a worse rate depending on structure. And even if you roll it in, you still need cash for moving, repairs, escrow adjustments, and maintenance. So it doesn't solve the cash flow stress problem. Another objection, can I just use my emergency fund? You can, but you shouldn't. Because the first year of ownership is exactly when emergencies happen. Job changes, health stuff, car repairs, and yes, house repairs. If you drain your emergency fund to close, you're basically betting nothing bad will happen for 12 months. And that is the exact bet that turns homeowners into stressed-out borrowers. Here's how you use the $25,000 rule without feeling overwhelmed. Step 1. Separate your money into 3 buckets. Bucket 1, down payment. Bucket 2, emergency fund. Bucket 3, homeownership buffer. Do not mix these. If you mix them, your brain will borrow from the wrong bucket. Step 2, ask for cash to close early. Before you fall in love with a house, ask your lender, show me estimated cash to close at this price point. What are typical escrow prepaids in this area? What fees can I shop? Step 3, build a first-year ownership budget. Mortgage payment, estimated utilities, HOA if any, maintenance. Start with at least 1% per year. If the monthly number feels tight, you're not ready, or you need a cheaper property. Step 4, negotiate the right thing. Most beginners negotiate price like it's the only lever, but what often saves your finances is negotiating seller credits, repairs, or rate buydowns if they apply, because lowering your cash to close keeps your buffer alive. Step 5, make a no new debt rule for 90 days after closing. No financing furniture, no 0% APR store cards, no, we'll just put it on the card for now. Because the first 90 days are when reality reveals itself. Here's the mindset shift. Rent is the most you'll pay. A mortgage is the least you'll pay. That's not pessimism. That's adulthood. And when you embrace that, you stop being afraid of real estate. Because you're not walking into it blind. You're walking into it with a buffer and a plan. That's what wealthy people do differently. Not because they're rich, but because they treat property like a system, not a vibe. Look, I'm slightly frustrated when people ignore this stuff. Not because I want to judge you, but because I've seen how avoidable the stress is. Buying property should feel like a step forward. But if you buy without a buffer, it turns into constant anxiety, credit card reliance, we can't travel this year, and panic every time something breaks. So here's your challenge. Before you buy, build the 25K moat. Even if you do it slowly, even if you do it in chunks. Because the point isn't perfection. The point is that you become the kind of person who buys assets without destroying your peace. If you want, in the next video, I can give you a checklist-style breakdown of every invisible cost category and a simple spreadsheet formula to calculate your number based on your home price and location. If that would help, comment "buffer" below and tell me your target purchase price. And if you're serious about entering real estate without fear, hit subscribe, because we're going to make this market simple, brick by brick.